In the spirit of reconciliation, I acknowledge the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. I pay my respects to their elders, past and present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Island peoples today. Welcome to Totally Lit, the podcast celebrating reading, writing and creating literature. I'm your host, Ky Garvey. Thank you for listening. Hi, Lawrey Goodrick. Welcome to Totally Lit.
Hi, Ky, or should we call you by your periodic element name, Kyrium?
Yes, isn't that amazing? I was lucky enough to get a signed copy of your book over the weekend, and you created a wonderful periodical element for me. I felt very special.
Yeah, it really changes the whole signing process of books.
You might have to be careful if you're at a book signing with a long line.
I know.
A sore hand.
It does take about a minute or two, but we'll speed up that. The more copies we sell, the more professional I'll be.
I enjoyed your launch on the weekend. It was great to get out and see lots of kids there as well.
It was great having you there.
What was it like? Was that your first launch, or have you had a book launch before?
No, I launched my first book, Cans for Change, a few years ago, but that was just after the COVID period, so it was a bit daunting for people in the public space, but now it's all vibrant again, and this launch had a lot of energy in it, electricity,
Yeah, it was great.
which was suitable for the themes.
Do you want to tell me about your latest release?
So Half-Life is AA battery adventure, and it's about a damaged AA battery called Half, who goes on an adventure with his friend Hope, a smart alkaline. Half is a lithium ion, so he has a rechargeable capacity, and Hope doesn't. And they go on an adventure to basically free batteries from electricians, which humans. So yeah, they explore the house, they go beyond, and Half has a real fascination with science and space and understanding his origins, and that's where his adventure takes him.
So is there lots of learning in the book for kids?
Absolutely. I first started it very basic, and I was learning about electrical engineering and invention in the 300 years of that, and about where the origins of the battery came from. And in doing that, I was adding all this detail to the story. I realized how much I didn't know and how much science I required to put in there that just made it even more of a grand adventure. And it got so big that I had to change the STEM acronym to STEM HEAP, which was science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and then HEAP for history, English, arts, psychology, and philosophy, because it was just putting so many themes and so much detail into it, and it just made it more of a riveting adventure. Every time I did a draft, I was like reading my own story anew, and it just added such a level to it.
Invented an acronym?
Yeah, STEM HEAP, just to make it all fit.
And the book is full of illustrations as well.
Yes.
Were you the illustrator?
Yep. Thankfully, through my publisher, Hawkeye Publishing, I was allowed, with my first book, Cans for Change, I was offered to illustrate that. And then when it come to doing Half-Life, part of my writing process was write some story, and then from all the things I learned, it inspired me to draw pictures that would motivate the story into another level. So every time I wrote or drew something, the story would grow deeper. I couldn't help but laugh drawing scientists and physicists as AA batteries, the version of the AA battery. Not to mention,
thrilled to be represented as batteries.
I'm hoping so. I've sent enough letters out into the world to try get the book out there. I think a few weeks ago I sent one to the Stephen Hawking estate, seeing if they liked a version of the Stephen Hawking AA battery.
You've got Stephen Hawking in the book?
Yeah, I've got Albert Einstein as a battery, and I've got the famous Mary Shelley as a battery. Like, just the history behind how even Frankenstein came out of the history of electricity just blew me away when she was exposed to public displays of experiments with convicts and their cadavers, and it was just a public spectacle where they were making these bodies just jump up with the power of electricity, and that's how Frankenstein was created. She saw that and she went and rushed and wrote a story, and wow, who would have thought? Like, that came out of just a bunch of scientists mucking around.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's quite
I just like,
shocking in some ways. It's like,
yeah, it is, and it's like, how far have we come, and then and where did we come from? And it started to be this origin story, not just about batteries, but human beings and just our endeavors. And what I found most interesting about how history has been altered through a lens, and I was able to explore that and bring all these forgotten people in history that have just been pushed to the side and ignored just because it wasn't what society wanted at that time. So, yeah, it was really interesting bringing all these unknown figures into the light, like Henrietta Swan Leavitt, who was an assistant to Edwin Hubble, and she helped develop the concept of the stellar parallax, which was how to map stars and find the distance of a star and how far away it was. And this all like sounds so far away from a story about AA batteries, but it's so integral to the history of the sciences and how just amazing. And once you pick off the scab of something in history, it just starts this interesting journey that it just made me want to write more and more and detail. And yeah, I was managed to incorporate it into a story with batteries. And yeah, I try to blow myself away. Every time I write something, if I can stun myself, I'm happy.
when you were writing, and because you are like bringing some quite adult ideas to a children's book,
Absolutely.
did you have to think, oh, I've got to tone this down, or how do I share this information at a level for kids to enjoy? Because kids do love scary and interesting and crazy stuff, but
Yep.
you also need to make sure that it's, I guess, PG.
Absolutely. Like, when I was inspired by the story, there's quite a scary situation where I'd lost all my energy from just doing so much and going through so much. What got me through it was I had a spark of energy inside me that just lit up like I was hit with a defibrillator during a time when I was just had no energy. And it was like being revived from death. And I thought, the electricity inside was so profound. I was just like, how would I tell this story? And I really couldn't tell a story about being so close to death for children. But then, of course, I rise to the challenge, as I usually do. I back myself into a corner. Like, no, I really want to write a story for kids that will explore this, and how will I do it? And then during this episode where I had no energy, I was just thinking, this is what it must feel like to be a dying AA battery.
Mm.
And then that's where the story of Half-Life took hold. And I wrote the story 3 days, in 3 days, handwritten. And then I converted it to computer within a Word document within a week. And then I just let it sit there.
Mm.
Yeah, I was still struggling with whether people will accept this storyline, because it was a bit confronting, talking about ego death or psychogenic death, which is just essentially erasing versions of your mask to come back to the true identity that you are. And thankfully, there was a romance story growing in it as well between the two batteries, Half and Hope. And that really helped me navigate some of the harsher descriptions of the tragedy in life, as well as the friendly children-like conversations, despite how scientifically complex they can be when describing them. Hence why I put pictures in there. Pictures help change the understanding of the narrative. But the toughness of the story just seemed to evaporate the more I developed it, and the more I just said to myself, this is a story for kids, but how can you make it? I made it fun on the surface and entertaining and animated and energetic and the simplistic dialogue. But once you read it a few times, you'll start unearthing all these different themes that just make it such a powerful coming of age tale.
What background do you have in your work life that
I have
resulted in this book?
I slugged it out and finished my Bachelor of Psychological Science, and I unwittingly and unknowingly completed that. And it took me like 9 years to do this one degree, and I didn't know I had ADHD and high functioning autism the whole time. And so it kind of built the engine that was the story that was Half-Life, struggling with this energy and then all this unknowing, and then every turn he took, he uncovered something. Every episode he came through, but he ends up coming towards the end of his story, and everything just comes together, an understanding of everything. Like, despite the arduous journey, you can get there. You can win.
Love it. Love that message. Well done on your tenacity on getting your degree.
Thank you.
It took me many years to get my Bachelor of Arts, which is like the easiest course to do.
It is so hard, hey.
And especially if you've discovered that you have other challenges, if you're trying to do that course without any assistance or help.
Yep.
And then later it's like, oh, that explains.
Yeah. Well, I got diagnosed with the ADHD in just like the last of the 9 years, and once I was understanding everything, I was just like, "Oh, well, this makes it so much easier to get through this stuff." Knowing this now, but geez, it really could have helped me all that time ago.
And is your writing geared to help kids that may be on the spectrum as well?
Absolutely. The way I write stories has that ADHD energy, and it propels a storyline. And then with all the, I'm going to say, black holes you can go travel down in all the information out there, and you just get sucked in. That's the high functioning autism coming out and just wanting to explore everything, but then realizing how you can get so distracted in going down so many avenues. And I always tried to challenge like mental well-being and never let it get on top of me. And so that's why I fought so much to work it into my writing. There's so many mental well-being themes in my writing. It's just amazing what you discover doing that. I mean, when I was writing my first book, Cans for Change, not having written a book before and having it published, I realized how much, in the psychology sense, that plot motivation, you have your good and your bad characters, but when I was writing characters, I was like, Jesus, this villains, or this the bad side of bad part of the story, they're kind of narcissistic in a way. I realized then that there's a lot of plot lines in stories that people aren't necessarily like narcissistic, but if the villain wasn't there, making it harder for the good guy, we'd never have a story.
Plot. You've got to
Yeah,
drive your story forward.
yeah, you'd never have anything. And I'm like, okay, let's not have too many narcissists in the world. But yeah, we need the angst against the hero to always be there. And yeah, these things I just kind of worked into my stories. And with Half-Life, I deliberately needed him to be different from another battery. And so that's why I gave him a disability. The disability is the dint in his side that reduces his charge. He's a half-charged battery. He can't go far on his disability, or can he? And he pushes himself to overcome those obstacles that have been inflicted by others, more pointedly for Half-Life, the electrician that dropped him, the human that dropped him, and gave him this lifestyle now that he has to deal with. And yeah, that's just me reflecting on whomever's adversity or trauma or disability. He tries to overcome all of that in his adventure.
I think it is really great for kids to be able to see themselves in books. So I have two sons who are both on the spectrum, and
Yep.
when they were young, talking to them about, we got a diagnosis of autism, and trying to explain what that meant, and then also saying, oh, well, how does that make us different? And learning to understand that a disability, it doesn't mean less than, that like we're all people and we all have value,
Absolutely.
and that everyone is different. We all have different personalities. We all have different abilities. You talking about some of the science today has been going over my head a little bit. So I'm very passionate about teaching my boys that just because they have a condition that is considered as a disability, you're still valued. And breaking down those, okay, what actually does this mean? Why is it important for me to know that I have this? What makes me different from everybody else at school? And so seeing books like this where some of those things are explored is great, because I would have loved a book like that when when my guys were little. They're like 20 and 23 now. Showing kids that I don't even know if you want to say overcome, but you do want to show kids that just because there's something different about them, it doesn't mean that they can't do great things in the world and achieve things.
Absolutely.
It does sometimes mean that their journey is a bit more of a challenge, I guess. But great to see books like this where kids can see themselves.
Yeah.
And also so that their friends can get an understanding as well of how to be friends with someone that does have something different.
Absolutely. I always remember how lonely it was as a child, and I always thought that not that I told anyone, but I always thought I was an alien dropped off somewhere, because I just was looking at the world in such a different way. But when I grew up, these things weren't as common, or if they were the severe form where it was physical, but it was quite misunderstood. I mean, even me growing up, I misunderstood like autism when you go watch movies that show the physical restraints of someone with autism, and you're like, okay, that's autism. Dustin Hoffman and Rain Man, for example. And then you realize that once you learn
That's not
more.
actually, it's
No,
physical.
yeah, and the beauty of it was that doing all the research for all these inventions and inventors and engineers, I was just like, there's no way that these guys, apart from the business people, they were,
Neurotypical?
yeah,
Yeah.
neurotypical. Like they were, just what they envisioned and imagined at such an early age, and the concepts that they were playing with. Your mind really has to have an elasticity, and when I go and think of things, I tend to go really deep into my head and think about things. And you could say it's like psychedelics or something. Someone would be like tripping out on psychedelics, but that is the normal
Mm.
world. Like it's not rainbows and everything, but the detail to everything, you trip over in your own head on all the detail, and then trying to capture that and throw it into a story and just be just as detailed is what I attempted in Half-Life. And hopefully it can nurture the neurodiverse, and it can teach the neurotypical about everything.
When you were writing the story, and if you were falling down rabbit holes or getting a bit fixated on some information, what did you use any tools or reach out to other authors to get some tips on, okay, I need to edit this and how did you decide when it was time that the book was ready?
I think my first step was after I'd shelved Half-Life, I'd written it, converted it into a Word document, let it sit there, and played with it over a couple of about 2 months, 2 or 3 months. And then I just went, "Stuff it, I'll chuck it into a competition and see what happens." And I submitted it to the Hawkeye manuscript development competition, not thinking anything of it. And then I got longlisted in that and didn't go any further. But that made me go, "Huh, okay. Maybe I was really doubting myself a little too much." And so I revisited it, and it wasn't for some time that anyone really looked at it, and I just went over it and over it again. It was when I was coming to getting really deep into some of the physics stuff, I was like, "Whoa, hold up. Even adults will spin out about this."
Mm.
And when it came to wanting some things in there, it's good being so critical of your own work because especially when you know what's good and what's not for writing, you can quickly decide, I can turf that. I don't really need it. There was a few times where I was like wanting certain things in it, and it only just made the scene bloom when I basically argued with myself to keep it in, and then I had the characters argue about something. And yeah, there's a scene in the book where they're arguing over the facts, the science facts, and then they end up saying, "Fine, then when we get back, we'll have to go listen to a podcast on Star Talk by Neil deGrasse Tyson." And so that wasn't in there, but the fact that there was some criticism to take some stuff out just made it bloom even more. And yeah, you certainly start to learn what you can and can't do, or whether you're going a bit too far or whatnot.
Mm.
Take your foot off the gas and ease up. But yes, I'm very used to getting my own whip out and saying, "That's enough, Laurie."
Okay.
'Cause yeah, as you can imagine, it just goes. You just get so excited by something, and
Mm.
you do end up falling down that rabbit hole. But it was fortunate in my case because they seemed to be the right rabbit holes, and I knew just when to pull back and say, "That's enough of exploring that one."
And how did it come from you were longlisted with the Hawkeye manuscript development prize, but
Yep.
now it's been published with Hawkeye. What did you just go back to them and say, "Hey, I've had another look at this. Would you like to publish?" Or what were the next steps?
So I got the recognition and the long list. I didn't go any further than that, which was fine with me because I'd spent more time working it and developing it. And then I was getting pretty brave and saving up some money to go to my editor Lauren Daniels,
Oh,
and
Lauren, she's amazing.
she keeps me in line. There was a few times she's like, "Laurie, you're a published author now. You need to," not so much in a mother's voice, but you've got a reputation to uphold. And so I'm like, "Okay, okay, okay." And that was the same with my publisher. Yeah, when Lauren received it, she was just blown away by what I'd been tinkering on
Mm.
because I'd had some ideas for books prior to that, and I was a bit ahry, some short stories that needed some work. But yeah, after Lauren, my editor, looked at it, she pushed me in the right direction, which added more detail and more theme. And it is such an important thing to have an editor that knows what they're talking about and has the history. And yeah, it's funny because I've only met Lauren a few times in my time knowing her. I think it took 6 years to actually first meet Lauren.
Wow, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Because
from
you're on the other side of, we're all Brisbane people, although this podcast does go out all over the world, but you live on the south side, I'm on the north side, and I'm only around the corner from Lauren, to be honest. And
yeah,
I only ever see her in settings away from, like, I haven't bumped into her at the shops or anything like
yeah.
that. But yeah, even when you are in the same city, sometimes it's difficult to be in the same place together.
It
Um,
gets so busy.
and
Um,
yeah, when if you've got work during the day and you're trying to write at night, and then so actually physically seeing your writing friend can be
yeah,
challenging.
I think that expanse of time, it wasn't 6 years or 4 years or whatever it was when I first met her to tinkering with my story ideas to bringing out Cans for Change, and then there was a break in between for Cans for Change and Half-Life, and I think it was just the fact that the skill had developed so much and come from out of nowhere with an original concept. It just really impressed her, and with her advice, it just strengthened my story. And then after that, it was looking really good for Hawkeye Publishing, and it didn't take them long to realize the potential that it had in it. And they might have gone, "Oh, crap, how much work have we got ourselves into?" Because Laurie goes every which way he can, and then was an interesting adventure. Not just in the story as I'd written it, but from concept to published. I think it was mid 2023. I'd written Half-Life, and I just can't believe I threw it into a drawer and just didn't think it was worthy. And
It's
that's
good
what we
to get
do.
that hint, though, like when
Mm,
because I think we are all guilty of it. We write things and it feels amazing and, oh, this is good. And then you put it away and, oh, it's terrible. I'm the worst
yeah.
writer in the world. And then that when you submit and you get good feedback, it's like that hint from the universe saying, yes, keep
Yes.
going with it. Um,
Yes.
I'm trying to learn to acknowledge those hints from the universe because I often focus on rejections and not getting published and ignore like all the positive things that are happening. And I think it's creative mental health can be affected greatly because we're compelled to create, but then you also then have to be submitting and sharing and listening to people tell you, oh, this needs to change. That didn't work. Oh, sorry, we're not going to publish. Or you just get silence sometimes out in the world.
And
Um, and trying to not be like on the floor crying all the time.
it it's
And
devastating.
and the other thing when you're pretending that everything is amazing because there's pressure as well to be appearing successful because there's this idea that success begets success. So you're constantly trying to appear to the outer world like everything is fantastic when often it's not. Um, and because like we're all humans with normal lives, like it's not normal to be skipping around happy all the time. And
Yeah.
I think also creatives are a little bit prone to a bit of melancholy, and that's what fuels our art.
Yes.
But when you're writing like fun, upbeat stories for kids, it doesn't seem like we feel like we have to be on and cheery and happy. And it's like, oh, well, that's not reality
Yeah.
anyway.
That
Mm.
that's definitely something I've struggled with, especially with the darker concepts in Half-Life. It is really hard to write. I've put myself in another corner with choosing to write middle grade fiction because it's a very hard category to market,
Mm.
and your stories have gotta be outrageous and animated. Luckily, that's 2 things that I'm good at. But yeah, and it also makes it a hard market because you're not selling a book to middle grade children, you're actually selling it to their parents.
Yes.
and their parents are so busy just trying to keep up with the world, it's hard to just pull them back and say, this could really change your child's future and add value to it. And then it's like, how much is it?
I
Then-
find that too, because I have a picture book and I'm asking parents to drop $25 on my book
Yep.
when they're trying to figure out how to buy shoes and, we haven't got quite enough food, rent is going through the roof. And then I'm sitting outside a bookshop saying, oh, come and say hello. Would you like to buy my book? And they're sort of going, oh, our wallets are empty.
Yeah.
And you do want to say the message in my book will be wonderful for your children. But what I often say is, you can go get it at the library.
Yeah, that's a good way.
We do benefit from the ELR and PLR in Australia. So I don't mind if people go to the library and borrow it and take
Yep.
it out as many times as they like. The message is getting to the kids, and that's what matters to me.
That's absolutely.
I did have a lovely friend who is a librarian mentioned to me the other day. They actually had to, I can't remember the term they used, but basically they had to throw my picture book out because it had been so well loved from being like
that's a
going
good
home with kids, and so the cover was starting to get ruined, and they're like, yeah, we couldn't keep it anymore because it has to go out. And I'm like, oh, well, that does seem sad.
Yes.
Thought of my book going in the bin, I guess. But it is nice to know that it's been through that many kids' hands and they've had a good read of it. So hopefully some of your books will go into the libraries and end up having to be
Turned
disposed
into
of
pulp.
because they've been so well read. But
That's what we're hoping for. That's the push. I tried to gain the attention of so many different institutes, and I've done mail drops to every library in Australia, every bookstore I can come across in Australia. I've even contacted the Department of Education and politicians.
hard work. Nobody tells you about the slog
No,
of getting your book noticed, because even your publisher would be amazing and be trying to find as many opportunities for you as they can. But there's a lot of work as an author getting your book
absolutely.
in bookshops, in libraries, in front of the kids that it will benefit. And if you are a little bit introverted, or it's like, I've got to walk into this bookshop and ask them to put my book on their shelf. And like sometimes you just don't get any response. And like, I emailed all these bookshops and I said I could come and do a signing, and there was nothing.
Yes. Yep. The dread.
It's
That's
just marketing, but nobody's teaching you how to do it.
That's essentially why I went to sending out media releases and author information sheets by the mail, because you could research. I was researching all these different places and I would get an email address, but I didn't know, even if I sent something, would it go to the inbox or would it go to spam? But at least I knew that a letter would go into a mailbox somewhere.
Yes.
Internationally or nationally, or I really didn't care. Yeah, just as long as it got out there. And it's kind of like stirring up the universe, trying to make something.
I think that I kind of aim anything I try, if I send out 10 points of contact, I'm expecting just one response. And so like it's just a numbers game. You just keep trying and hoping something will come back.
Yeah.
If you're lucky, it'll be 2 out of 10 instead of 1 out of 10. But I think you just have to put yourself out there, and once it's in someone else's hands, there's nothing more you can do about it. You have to
That's right.
Response. But,
That's right.
I think not giving up is the key.
Exactly. Yeah, you just got to keep on persisting despite yeah getting so depleted and exhausting all your avenues to get things off the ground. But yeah, there's definitely like time frame and a plan, and with Half Life and the science and whatnot in it, noticing such a dwindling in the funds going into the arts and creativity and even the sciences the Australian when the CSIRO got their funding cut for space and science, I thought, wow. And then when they did that in America as well, cutting the funding to science, I was just like, what? No, this can't be. And it's happening. And that's why it made me more livened to try get Half-Life out there because I'd love to. We're such innovative, creative minds in Australia, and it'd be awesome to see bigger investment in our creative arts and sciences because if we do that in 10 years' time, we'll be a leader in that. But it's our kids that need to have that. And we're a good sporting nation. We love our sports, but how about put some money towards the sciences and the creative arts? That would be awesome.
Now, do you have any tips for an author that is aspiring and is feeling the challenges of how do I get started? Have you got any tips that you could share?
Well, I would grab yourself a journal that you like the look of. Like I carried around different types of journals that had Star Wars on it for years. I got a whole stack of them. And you want a book that you want to write in and you want to fill up. And if you're a creative artist, there's going to be some melancholy, some adversity, some trauma that you'll be grappling with in your identity that you'll want to sort of unravel, and down the track it will permeate in your writing in some form because that was something core to you. But if you get a journal and you just ideas that come off the top of your head, just write them down, or anything that comes on into your mind, write it down, and over time it will get rid of all these space wasters in your head and give you some wiggle room to actually put some time into understanding what a good story, what is involved in a good story, because we all have these random ideas and say, "Oh, that would be a good story," and then you write it down and you look back at it and you're like, "Man, that's rubbish. Like that's not going to go anywhere," because you start to learn that ideas can come from things you've been influenced by. It's already been done, and if you're going to do a story that's already been done, at least you know that and you can take it down another avenue. But yeah, just unloading all that stuff that's sitting in your head, and it might take a year, couple of years, but yeah, there's bits and pieces of a story. And for someone that has ADHD or autism or neurodiversity, and it is hard to sit down and write stuff, journaling is another good way to get it all out before it takes off on you or you get distracted with something else, because my stories that I write can be a Word document of 20,000 words that are mismatched ideas, and I just slowly once I've got enough, I just slowly start going through and molding a story out of the stuff and pushing it down into a comprehensive format. And then if the extra stuff or those spurious ideas aren't needed, I can just get rid of them. But if I didn't have and write those things down, I would probably never write a book. Yeah, unless there was a passion or a really strong driving force that I was fortunate to have with Half-Life, to have it written in a rough version written in 3 days, that I could then just be like, oh, thank goodness I don't have to
Yes.
have to convince myself to sit down and write this bloody thing because you fight against yourself most of the time.
Our own worst enemies.
Yeah, we are.
And were you writing when you were young and at school, or did you start writing as an adult?
As a child, I used to watch a lot of movies.
Mm.
So my understanding of the world was basically scenes and acts in movies.
Mm.
I did start writing screenplays as a teenager and experimenting in short films. But when the remakes started just exploding and the conversation was about how these remakes were good and movies, I was just like, man, I want to write something original.
Mm.
I don't watch too many movies these days. I used to watch movies all the time, and now I just like, no, it's wasting my time unless it's something really convincing. Yeah, so the script writing died off, and my English education wasn't the best though in school, which you could hide with script writing, screenplay writing, because it's very basic and it's directional. It's telling the character to do this and do that. You don't really have to go into a massive definition, which is something quite different for visual definitions in books. And I was like, okay, how am I going to do this? And so it was actually watching a movie, Misery by Stephen King, and then reading the book Misery by Stephen King, and then identifying the difference between the two.
Yeah.
And I just kept on doing that. And then my early stories were very Stephen King-ish. There's already a Stephen King.
Mm.
I want to be me. And so that's where I just had to go and start grabbing outrageous ideas or out of their ideas or actiony ideas and going with it and putting in the work to make it as real as possible so people believed it. And yeah, that's why I did what I did with a AA battery to successfully make that emotional connection with a AA battery. I was just so relieved when people said they cried over a AA battery.
That's a good sign.
And I was just like, yes, I can retire now. I don't have to write anymore.
Has there anyone been along the way that is, when you decided you wanted to be published, that said, don't do it?
I think it was like the routine of society that said, don't do it. And after a while, I got really sick of the industrial machine that is the routine, the 9 to 5 routine. And it, it does compel you to revolt and go against it.
Mm.
And fortunately, I do it in a creative way. I don't actually do it in some crazy
Not destructive. That's right.
destructive way. But yeah, I think it was just like seeing and going through the same routines that, I often, because of my psychological science background and my deep analytical understanding of things, I observe people quite a lot. And it's easy to feel sorry for people when you know that they could be working this job they don't like, and I really want them to be able to revert to what their identity really wants to, what the child wanted to achieve, not the trap that pushed the growing adult into the machine. And that's why I do talk about the industrial machine of in Half-Life as well, because Half-Life's sick of it as well,
Mm.
because that's all batteries are made for. Like, they're made to serve an electrical purpose, and they want to break from that. But what can a battery do if it's not powering a machine? And so that's the possibility I play with now in taking the idea further.
What about your supporters? Like when you first wrote your manuscript, I guess we would be going back to Cans for Change. Who was
Yep.
it that was like, you can do this?
Yep. it was my supporters, my family and my friends were very supportive. My colleagues that I work with over the years in my factory work that I've been doing, they're supportive. And when you were going back to what you were saying before about people wanting to seeing you this halo about you and as an author and whatnot, you kinda and how tough it can be, you and the smile you hide behind when it's tough and it's hard and you got to do all this work, you kind of don't want to let these people down that,
Mm.
they are kind of living off and hoping that you do succeed and you really don't want to let them down. So when you get these setbacks, you're like, man, how much longer do I have to fake it for? So I can really be like, yes, we did it. But yeah, my family, my friends have been really helpful in lifting me up and pushing me on in the good times and the dark times. Yeah, without them, definitely wouldn't be able to be here having this chat with you, Kai.
Yeah. Well,
In
I have to admit there's times where I pinch myself a bit about some of the next level things that happen when you become a writer. Like I was Googling you earlier and you have an IMDb profile,
Oh,
right?
yes,
And I'm
yes.
like, that's so cool. Like, but those things don't happen unless you put yourself out there and do it. Like,
Yeah,
I know that, like, I think you have to pay for your profile to be able to edit it or anything like that. But to me, like, because the Totally Lit podcast has an IMDb profile as well, I'm like, I would never have imagined that in a million years. There's so many fun things that can happen
yeah, when you
because
do
you
it
are putting
yourself.
yourself out there. But there's also times when I look back, like I probably haven't had lots of people tell me I don't get too invested in this writing thing, but I do recall two people going on, don't get your
Yeah,
hopes up because this thing is never going to happen. Um,
yeah,
but I think you just have to be persistent and look for the opportunities and go for it when you see them. Um,
absolutely. I mean, Australia does unfortunately have a tall poppy syndrome thing sometimes when people are venturing out. And I think of all the things, that can be the most cutting for anyone going and trying anything.
mm,
And people who carry on like that, I don't even think they necessarily understand that they're actually carrying on like that. It's just
I,
ingrained
I think
in
they
it.
actually think they're being kind or letting you
Yeah.
down gently. But I'll be honest, the actual worst person for my career has been myself
Mm,
because I have wanted to be a writer since I was 6.
right.
When I was deciding what to do when I left high school, you can't write a book because you'll never make any money off it. You need to go get a sensible job. And I ended up working in a bank for 12 years,
Yep.
which there was no writing or book creation in that time.
Yep.
Yeah, so I'm like, oh, that I really did myself a disservice because it
Mm.
was me telling myself I couldn't do it, not anybody else.
And it would have been so soul crushing too, because you would have noticed, like, just going through the routines of it all. How,
That idea of the industrial machine that you've mentioned
mm,
definitely resonates with me.
yeah,
And yeah, there would be times where I'd be like, "There's something more to life than this." And I've found now I have more of a work creative balance because I do still work in a full time job, which was why I was running around looking for my headset.
yeah, that,
For the listeners, we had a bit of a false start because I couldn't find my headset. And it was because I'd worked 8 hours today. I went and
yep.
cooked dinner. Then I was like, right, I'm ready. And I sat down. I'm like, well, I'm not ready. Where's my headset? So I then had my husband provided me with his podcasting equipment as well. But yeah, like my daily existence is my work. And I'm actually lucky at the moment that I've got quite a fulfilling job. But it does mean that 8 hours is not sitting writing a novel. It's earning money for my family. That is kind of also our existence.
That is, yeah.
So we have to pay our rent and buy our food.
And fund our ventures. I'd so laugh, though, if your headset was off, snuggled up with a Half-Life book, reading it.
That would be quite possible that they are together. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been great to chat.
And pleasure.
I bought the book on Saturday and I have started reading it, but I haven't got through to the end yet. But I'm looking forward to reading it. And I think both my boys will be interested in having a read of it as well.
It's definitely a great story to, even if stuff goes over your head, to sit down with your kids and read it to them. And that's the beautiful thing I found about learning all this stuff was that I would watch documentaries about science and physics. I'd watch them a few times and I'd be like, why didn't I hear that the first time? And then I'd learn something new the second time, third time, fourth time. And I'm like, wow, there's this intelligence is layered and I'm not stupid after all. I can actually retain things, but you just got to give yourself time. But yeah, it's a great story to definitely read with your kids and share and make a tear.
And where can people buy it from if they're looking for a copy?
It's available online at hawkeyebooks.com.au and all good bookstores. And I look forward to going and hopefully signing some books for people and setting themselves up with some periodic element.
Oh, you're gonna have to have your thinking
signatures. Yeah, very fast.
It does make that copy very special, though, to have
It does.
signed that way. So, great idea. That's definitely a great marketing tip.
Totally Lit is an independent podcast. You can help support us to continue to chat with wonderful Australian creatives by leaving a review on iTunes or sharing our socials with your friends. You can also make a contribution at www.buymeacoffee.com/totally-lit. This will also help with equipment and podcasting platform fees. I love to interact with our listeners, so feel free to say hello either by email or social media at totallylitpodcast@gmail.com, or you can find me on Facebook, Insta, LinkedIn and Twitter, and now Blue Sky. I've also created a group on Facebook called the Totally Lit Writing Community. It's a space to continue the conversation and share your writing successes, events, launches and latest projects. Jump into the group and say hello. Thank you for listening to Totally Lit, and don't forget to go out into the world to read, write, create, ignite.